If you don't start, I'm going to sell you to the damn pikeys. You don't know how much messing about it has taken to get this flipping thing up and running. Let me tell you what happened. Finally, it's been off the road for maybe 3 flipping months, on and off, and for the last 2 months off, basically. I'll tell you, the fault was more me than the car. It seemed like it was running rich for a long time. It did an MOT back in October. Past that, no problem. But after the MOT, immediately after the MOT, it was running a bit rough. During the MOT, this is notable, during the MOT they thrash the hell out of it. They get the revs right up while they're measuring the emissions. And after the MOT, it just wasn't right. I don't drive it at... They get it up to probably about 5,000 revs. I don't do that when I'm driving it. The symptoms were, to me, that it was running rich. It was very smoky. It smelt fuel-y at the exhaust when it was running. It smelt of unburnt fuel. I'd check the spark plugs and they would be filthy black. And I've got the lambda sensor, the oxygen sensor, giving me a warning on the dashboard. And to me, it seemed like it was running rich. And I spent ages chasing that fault, but it wasn't running rich. Kind of was, but it wasn't. That's not what was causing it. It was a weak spark. Now, this is where the problem comes down to the fact that I messed up. It was producing a weak spark, but I never bothered looking into that because I change the spark plugs on this regularly. These days I do, not much mileage, a couple of 1,000 miles a year in this. Change the spark plugs every year for the MOT anyway, just to help it through the emissions, because it's an old car. I want a nice strong spark. I want it to pass the test. The other things that can cause a weak spark is, the obvious one is the coil and the HT leads. Well, the HT leads are also new, so it's not going to be them. And I didn't even bother looking at the coil because the coil is only about 2 years old. I replaced the coil as a matter of course just because it had done a lot of miles. It was 25 years old at the time. I thought, time for a new coil. The other thing is the distributor cap and the rotor arm. They can cause a, they wear out. They're a mechanical moving part passing an electrical current. They've got electrical contacts that spin round very fast, and they do wear out. But I was convinced that since I bought this car, I changed the distributor and the rotor arm. I was convinced of it because I remember doing it on a B230 engine. This car's got a B230 engine. I know I've done that job. Unfortunately, it turns out that wasn't on this car. I spent this whole process spending a fortune in time and money, fault finding things, and okay, I found a couple of things along the way which needed doing anyway, and they're now done, so that's all good. But it was the wrong car. It was the wrong car. It wasn't this car that I changed the distributor on. It was on my old 740. Now, I had that 740 about 15 years ago, but I had it stuck in my mind that I'd done the distributor on this car, and it wasn't this car. Anyway, when I checked and I had a look, I was checking to make sure that the distributor wasn't damaged. I was sure it wasn't worn out. I was just checking to make sure the distributor wasn't damaged. I took it off and had a look. Not only was it damaged, there was a big crack in the rotor arm, so it's flopping around. It was all pitted. You could see where it had been arcing and burning. It was completely worn away, and that was the problem. So this is going to go on a little bit more. Sorry, I bought a new distributor, put that on, still didn't work. I thought, okay, now what? Did a bit of research. Turns out that a bad distributor can also destroy your coil. Now, I'd ignored the coil as well because that was only a couple of years old. I hadn't realised if your distributor's knackered, the coil ends up just trying to pull far harder than it should to get that spark out to your plugs. It also destroyed what I thought was a good coil, so I ended up buying a new coil. Still didn't work. Phoned my mate Brian. Brian is the proprietor and runner, and I think he's pretty much a one-man band these days, but he's Car Pro. Excellent garage, Car Pro. I went to school with him, Brian Hearn. I'd highly recommend Car Pro. I gave him a ring and said, look, Brian, this is going nowhere. I don't like pay. I've never ever had to pay anybody to help me out with my car. He does me MOTs, he knows my car, and you drive past his place, he's always got old Minis and Morris Minors and Land Rovers, and he drives a Beetle himself, you know. He knows old engines. So I phoned him up and said, look, I'm going to have to pay somebody to sort me out here. He was brilliant. He didn't bring me in and rip me off and charge me a fortune. He just spoke to me over the phone and he said, right, try this, this and this. And oh, yeah, I've done all that. And then he came up with one that I didn't know about. He said, has yours got an ignition amplifier? I said, no, I don't think so. What's that? I've never heard of an ignition amplifier. I haven't got it here. No, I thought I might have it here to show you. It's a tiny little electronic unit that sits tucked away underneath the wing. I didn't even know it was there. Apparently they can go wrong. So I ordered a new one of them and put that on. Finally, it started. We're there. It's still not 100%. It's still putting some black smoke out the back. But I think that's because it was so bad for so long that it's just completely coked up. So tomorrow morning before I start work, I think I'm just going to pop down the road and buy some of that mega engine additive. Not the Red X, that's rubbish. This stuff's like 20 quid a bottle. You pour that in your tank and it will clear all of that nastiness, and we'll see how we're doing. So finally we're there. Brilliant, the car's up and running. Just quickly then, next Saturday, walk-in video. I haven't done a walk-in video for so long. It's getting hot in here, give me a second. Yeah, I'm getting all flustered and excited now because now I've got the car back on the road, life's back on track. Next Saturday, the big walk. I need one so badly and I haven't been able to because of the car, because of my back, because of the weather. I'm really looking forward to this next Saturday. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but I'll give you some clues, and if anybody would like to guess in the comments, maybe a local, Chris or somebody might be able to look this up and figure it out. Right, I'm going to a river. It's another tributary of the river Ouse. So it's a bit like the Ousel, a bit like the River Flit, both of which I've already been to. This is another one of those little tributaries that goes into the Ouse. And along the way, I'm going to be passing... Okay, I'm going to be starting at some springs, one of my favourite springs, where I've been before. That's a big clue. It starts at a certain set of very, very beautiful springs. Along the way, I'm going to an ancient church which is made out of iron ore. Not many of them about. And I'm going to be finishing off at a Motte and Bailey castle, near where this tributary joins the River Flit. So have a look on the map if you want, you might be able to figure it out. Even if you don't, I'll see you next Saturday. I've got a car again.